All right, so let's add the update password section, and we already have the name and email. We just want to add a similar section below this. So let's start by creating a component for it. Inside the sections folder under profile, I would call this one update password.view. And in this component, we need three input fields, one for the current password and the other two for the new password. So let me copy everything from update info component. Copy here and paste in update password. And let's make some changes. We don't need props. Let's delete that. We do need a form, but we don't need these information. We need a current password. So current underscore password, which would be an empty string. Then we need a password, again, an empty string, and password underscore confirmation. So these are the three input fields or properties we need. And then we don't need this recent email. Let's delete that. So we have only this. We can also delete this router import and then go down to the markup. For the title, I just want to say update password and some random text here. Then we would need our error messages. So let's leave it there. And when we submit the form, we will leave it empty for now. And later on, we will create our function when we have a route. Down to the input fields, I'm going to delete one of them and just work on this one. So for the label of the first one, I can say current password. And for the icon, I would just use key. The class is going to be the same, but the V model will be for current password. We can also set the type of this input field to password since we are working with them. Then I can copy this and paste it underneath, change the label to new password, and everything else is going to be the same except the V model. So this is for the second input field, which we are binding it to form password. And then again, I'm going to copy this, paste it underneath, and just add confirm new password. And V model is going to be password confirmation like this. And we don't need this div, so let's delete that and keep the button, which we will keep it as it is. So this is our simple form. Let's import this in our edit.view so we can see it on the screen. So let's just say update password, and we will import it in a second. So we just want to duplicate that line and change this to update password. Now back to our website. This is our update password section, and we have three input fields. All right, so the next step is to create a route for it and a function in our controller so we can handle the form submission. Let's go to our web.php, and we want to repeat the same process. This time I will use a put request. The URI is going to be the same. Then again, we want to use our profile controller and a method that I would call it update password. So we will create this in a moment. Let's also give it a name, which I would choose profile.password and end the statement. All right, so now we have get, patch, and put, and later on we will have a delete request as well. So now we need to create the update password function in our controller. Let's go there and let's just create a public function, update password. Again, we need to accept the request, and let's die and dump that request object. All right, back to our update password. Let's create a submit function. We will set this to an arrow function, and we will grab our form and we want to submit this through a put request. So we say .put and then the route, which is going to be profile.password. And the reason I'm making a function here instead of coding it in line, because I want to add options to this. But for now, let's leave it as what we have. Now let's go to this form tag. We have the submit event listener. We just want to add our function we just created. All right, let's go back to our website and press save. We get, of course, the die and dump, and in the request object, we have our three input fields. So let's handle the request. And again, this is another form, so we should be familiar by now how to handle these requests. So again, let's create a fields variable, and we will set this to request and validate, and then we will pass an array. First, we want to validate our current password input field. So we can say this is required and it must be the current password. So this rule, which is part of Laravel rules, makes sure that this input field matches the currently authenticated user's password. And Laravel behind the scene will take care of comparing the plain string, which is coming from input field, and the hash password, which is in our database. So we don't have to worry about it. All we have to do is to provide this rule. And if the password doesn't match, this will throw an error. So we will see the effect in a moment, but let's also validate our password field. And this is just like the registration form. We want to say this is required and must be confirmed. And let's also add a minimum value of 3. And let's just die and dump here, okay, if the validations pass. So back to our website. If I press save without adding anything, you notice we get the error messages, but also we jumped up to the top of the page, and we will fix it so we stay in this section. But what I want to show you, if I add a password that is incorrect for this user, then press save, you notice we get the password is incorrect, and also we say these 2 fields are required. So we know our validations work. We just have to save the new password if there is no error. So similar to what we did up here, we want to grab this particular user and we want to update some information on this user. So this method, just like this fill method up here, will take the new information in a key value pair array or an associative array. And in this case, we want to update the password. So we would grab the field and we will set the value to the new password, which is this one, but we want to hash that. So we can bring in the hash facade, which is imported for me up here. And then we can use the make static function, which would take the plain password we want to hash. In this case, it is this password. So we can use our fields variable and then add the brackets and grab the password. So since this array would contain 2 keys or 2 elements, we want the password, and that's why we are passing it in brackets. And that's all we have to do to save the new password. And then we will return to the same page. So return, redirect, and route to the profile.edit. And that would be for updating the password on our backend. We still need to work on the front end and add a few things. But let's test this out first. If I add my correct password and 2 others that don't match, press save, of course we get the error message. But if I add a new password and then press save, we didn't get any error and we are back to the same page, but you notice the values are still there and we will fix that in a moment. But my password is now updated. Before it was 333 and I changed it to 222. So if I log out and log in again, and add my old password, of course it doesn't work, but with the new password, we are able to go to dashboard and profile. So it is working properly. Now let's fix the problems we have. The first one is this jumping. So we don't want to jump to the top of the page. We want to keep the user on this section. And we can do that by providing the options object to our put method as a second argument and use the preserve scroll property and set that to true. So that's it. This is part of inertia. If we go back and reload and press save, you notice we are not jumping to the top of the page. We stay on this section. The next problem is that if we have some values and press save, we keep the values here. We want to reset these fields if the form is successful or it has an error. So again, inside the options object, we can say unsuccess. We want to reset the form. So we pass a function here and then we say form.reset. So this is a function, make sure you invoke it. And we want to do the same thing when there is an error. So let's duplicate this line and just change this to on error. So we reset the form, whether it is successful or there is an error. We also preserve the scroll position and then of course submit the form to this route. So let's do it again. If I press save, we get the error messages. If I add something, press save, then the form is reset. If I actually update my password and press save, so it was successful and we are back. And now we can just show a message or something to the user that, okay, your password was saved. And there is actually a nice way to do this. And again, that is part of Inertia form. Let me just log that form to the console and let's open the console. So we have our proxy object, which is basically our form, and we have the handler and the target. If you open the target, which is an object, we have all the properties and the functions available on this form. And we have this property that is called recently successful, and at the moment it is set to false. So this property, as the name suggests, would turn true if the form submission is successful. And to show you the result, let's copy the property name and close this one, and we can delete this console.log. Then maybe right above the button, I can just add the curly brackets and say form recently successful. So you notice we get false here, and let's actually update our password. So I will add new information, press save. You notice it turned to true. And then after a few seconds, it turned to false again. So let me zoom in and do it again so we can see better. Now I don't remember which password I used, so I think it was this one. There we go. It's true. Now it's false again. For about 2 or 3 seconds, it is true, and then it turns false again. So we can use that to show a message to the user and inform them that their password was saved, and then it will automatically go away. So let's add a p tag here, and for the text, we just want to say saved. Let's also add a text green 500 and a font medium. So if we take a look at it, this is our text. Now we can use the vif directive and then use form recently successful property to show and hide this. And again, this is part of inertia form, which is very useful, I think. So let's do this again. At the moment, we can't see it. I'm going to reload and then update my password again. So let's see if it works. There we go. We have saved and it's gone. So if we wanted to handle this by ourselves, we probably had to send this back with a status message in our sessions, and then we grab that session message and show it. But all of that work could be saved with this simple property. And that is all we need to do for our update password section. So all is left now is deleting the user account. And we will do that in the next video.